Hi, I'm Effie and this is What Effie Reads. Today I thought I'd do something a little bit different, although to be fair everything's a little bit different with me. I am heading for a night out, and I think the last time I had a proper night out was New Year's 2013 to 2014, so I'm very excited but also a bit nervous. But I thought I would do a bit of a get ready with me and also chat about what I've been reading recently, because I haven't really been uploading this October. So in terms of makeup, I have no idea what I am planning tonight, so I'm just kind of gonna go with what feels good and figure it out as I go. I think I need a hairband. Okay, so whilst I apply some foundation, let's talk about books. So, what have I been reading recently? I have been listening to a lot of audiobooks because I've been doing this thing where I've been trying to figure out, but test out how much you can listen to on script in a month. So basically I've just been listening to script audiobooks, and because I've been doing that, I've been listening to books that weren't necessarily on my radar, which is kind of different for me. And just before starting to get ready, I was listening to Famous Adopted People. It was okay. It was really quite far-fetched. And there was an adult minor relationship. It's kind of like, some people might see it as on the cusp and not necessarily see it in the same light, but the protagonist, that I don't know if the protagonist's age was ever mentioned, but it was definitely an adult, was in a relationship with a 17-year-old student. So not only were they in relationships with someone who was still a child, but there was also an imbalance of power. And I'm not sure if it was really necessary to the story. So the fact that it was taboo was part of the reason why things went down the way they did for her. But also, I'm sure you could do something that was taboo or give her some other reason why she didn't want to return to Japan without it being, an inappropriate relationship. But I can't remember if I've mentioned, but also the story in general was kind of far-fetched, so it didn't work so well for me. I just need to bring my mirror closer to see if I've actually gotten all my face. So that was Famous Adopted People. It was okay if you disregard the inappropriate relationship, which I wouldn't suggest you do, but if you take that away and you're able to suspend your disbelief, it wasn't a terrible story. And I'm sure it had some interesting messaging throughout. It just didn't work as well as I thought it could have. What other audiobooks I've been listening to? I can tell you about the absolute worst audiobook that I listened to. And it is for kind of similar reasons why I didn't like it, but it took it a lot further. So I started off this month by listening to Sundered. I think that's how you say it. It's a word that for some reason keeps tripping me up. So I started my month listening to that, and I mean, it was odd. It basically involved like vaccines making people like zombies, which is an odd concept anyway, and obviously feels a bit anti-vax and a bit weird to be reading right now. And I also want to point out that like part of the vaccine stuff, like it was so bizarre because it was like this magical cure-all vaccine, and then obviously they all turned into zombies. But one of the things the vaccine was supposed to be able to do was to make people not fat anymore, which was really fucking weird. And it also meant that there was a lot of like fascination with people's size in the book, which was already uncomfortable. And then so that was that, and I was like, not great, but whatever. Because, you know, suspend your disbelief, and like part of the reason they're getting the vaccine is, you know. So it's like, why so many people are getting it, because they feel shamed and all that. But then they introduced the love interest, and I shit you not, the love interest is 14 years old. Now bear in mind that we've got like, it's dual perspective, so we've got two protagonists. They're a married couple, a man and a woman, and they are, I think they've been married for some time and they're trying for kids. So if you're being very generous with the author, this couple is maybe in their mid-20s. So to introduce a love interest for the man that is a 14-year-old girl, it was so disgusting. And then to also make her a survivor of sexual assault, like that was part of her backstory as well. And like there was some really like graphic descriptions of her like trying to seduce the man, and it was just so uncomfortable and so unnecessary. Like, well, I'm not going to complete this series because but I can think of literally no reason why the love interest had to be a child. Like, it was really disgusting, and I'm fairly sure that is the worst book that I've read this year. So that was fun. That was some rubbish books. I feel like I need to balance it out by talking about some books that were actually good. So, good books. I've read some really good books this month actually. This morning I picked up Princess Ever After, which was really, really cute. It's like a sapphic graphic novel, and it's basically like this one princess rescues another princess from the tower, and then they like go on adventures, and it was just so adorable. And it was really short as well. I think it only took me like maybe half an hour to read. But like I say, it was a lot of fun. I feel like I want to talk about more good books. Oh, The Summer That Melted Everything. That was I really, really enjoyed that. It did bring up some thoughts though. Like, I picked it up because Betty wasn't available on script. So I picked up The Summer That Melted Everything because Betty wasn't available, but like The Summer That Melted Everything is also by Tiffany McDaniels. So interesting, and it sounded like a really intriguing concept. It's like this lawyer called Autopsy puts an ad in the paper inviting the devil to come to his small town. And then when the devil turns up, the devil is a 14-year-old boy called Saul. And initially they doubt that he's actually the devil. And then like things start happening that make them think, oh, okay, maybe he actually is the devil. So like all that goes down. So this boy called Saul claims to be the devil. And a lot of the things that he says, you know, you could see that him being the devil, but also him being like the devil is misunderstood. You know, kind of like if you've watched the TV show Lucifer, and like I'm not up to date, but it's kind of like, you know, he's the devil, but he's not inherently bad. And there's just a lot of like really beautiful imagery to the book as well. So I really enjoyed it. But I will say that it brought up an interesting conversation in my head about the use of slurs. Because Sal. Sorry, if I've called him Saul, it's Sal. So Sal is a black boy, which means that there's quite a lot of racism in the book. And part of this is these characters just throwing the N-word around like it's going out of fashion. But as well as that, there's also use of homophobic slurs. So just like be aware of that kind of stuff. But I just think it's really interesting because obviously I can't comment on the use of the N-word, and obviously like it's not my place like to say if it's appropriate or not to use the N-word, especially as I believe the author's white. I could be wrong. I haven't like looked into it in any detail. But in terms of her using homophobic slurs, like it doesn't bother me. Because like regardless of the author's identity, it made sense in the context of the story for these characters to be throwing around these homophobic slurs, and like no, it's not okay to use that slur at all, but it made sense that the characters were using it, especially when you learn more about their stories. This is a really vibrant pink. I'm liking it. I feel like the use of the homophobic slurs made sense and like it didn't bother me. Oh gosh, that's wet. But that's not to say that using one kind of slur, what am I trying to say? That's not to say that just because it's okay to use one kind of slur, it's okay to use like all types of slurs. I just think it's really interesting to kind of think about and go, I wonder if that's an opinion that people would have about the other slurs. But anyway, it was a really, really good listen, because I listened to it on script, and it just, what am I trying to say? It had a really creepy feel to it, because it was set in 1984, which I think is a brilliant choice that the author made to set it in 1984. But there was a lot of it that felt much more historical, which I think is a really good comment on the fact that these things that you think are kind of relegated to the past very much aren't. And, obviously this is all still going on. I think I've done these colours wrong. I listened to Tower of Dawn and I enjoyed it. I think it's an odd one because Empire of Storms ends on such a massive cliffhanger. So to then go off and follow different characters for like a whole book is such a tease. Like, I get it, it gets you on the hype train, but I also think that 100% you could have incorporated. Oh, what am I doing? Tape first. You could have incorporated Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn together, especially because they happen at the same time. And you could probably still split it into 2 books. You just figure out what point to split it at, I guess. I don't know. But it was very frustrating wanting to know what was going to happen after the end of Empire of Storms, and then having to read this. I think it's like almost 700 pages long. Possibly some editions are 700 pages long. So this quite long book that's focusing on characters that aren't the characters you follow in Empire of Storm. So, like, I'll pop a spoiler warning on the screen. I'm going to talk in light spoilers, like, about just the, like, Throne of Glass series in general. I don't know. Basically, if you don't want to hear anything about the Throne of Glass series and don't want to potentially get spoiled, please, like, skip away until after the spoiler warning comes off the screen. So basically, at the start of Empire of Storms, Kale and Nesrin realise that they need to head off to the southern continent because Kale's injuries are such that they're not going to be able to heal them without going to visit the famed healers of the southern continent. So you don't see them again in Empire of Storms. And then you're following the rest of the gang, and Tower of Dawn is you following what Kale and Nesrin do whilst the gang's off doing their quests elsewhere. And it's just like, ugh. And you know that the timelines are happening at the same time. I think it's like common knowledge that Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn happen at the same time. But like, just to hammer it home, you have certain events that happen in Empire of Storms that like pop up in Tower of Dawn. But ignoring the fact that I found it a little bit frustrating to have to step away from the story that I was interested in seeing what happens next, I did really enjoy. Well, I say really. Really is probably too strong a word, but I did quite enjoy Tower of Dawn. And it was interesting seeing how these characters kind of ended up together. Because, I mean, at this point, if you've not been spoiled for the Throne of Glass series, that is like a superpower. And it was also like really interesting to see more of the story unfold. And there was some really good, like, shocking moments in Tower of Dawn. I'm definitely looking forward to finishing out the series next month. And I was thinking about it, and I think I've actually, like, it's not massively impressive, but I think over the course of this year, I've read the whole Throne of Glass series, which is nice. It's good to know that I started a new series this year, but I'm also finishing it this year. One book I like another series that I've like continued and now kind of finished out because it's the end of the series was the Good Girls Guide to Murder series, and the final book is As Good as Dead, and it took a really shocking turn actually, and I really enjoyed it. Duh. I'm pretty sure I said I really enjoyed it. But yeah, I've been surprised by just how much I enjoyed that series. And I'm sad to see it end, but I also get it because you feel like the characters are quite realistic in the like this is doing things to me. And I feel like I'm not talking very well about these books. I'm sure there's books I can gush about. See what other books we've got. Ooh, Lie With Me. So, I probably should say, like, so I'm doing Spoopathon this month. I can't remember if I've already mentioned. But, yeah, that's something I'm doing. And I decided, for good or for bad, that I was going to start my month. Like, my very first path for Spoopathon was going to be, like, a Spoops-inspired path. So, I started on short book, which was Lie With Me by Philippe Besson. And I was very lucky in that for my birthday this year, Spoops actually sent me she sent me a book. So I was able to read one of her favourites that she'd sent me, which I thought was pretty cool. So that's where my copy of Lie With Me came from. And then the next book that I read was graphic novel, I think. And for that, I picked up the first volume of the Battle Royale manga because, I mean, Spoops and Battle Royale is just basically like, I'm pretty sure Battle Royale is like Spoops' all-time favourite book. So since I own all of the Battle Royale manga, it just seemed right that I would read some of it for a Spoopathon path inspired by Spoops herself. And then after that one, I went on to new genre, which, I mean, I read so widely, So for new genre, I've just gone with manga, which I know isn't a genre, but it's like the type of books that I least frequently read. So it felt like an appropriate choice for it. Don't come at me, please. And then the next one was Trick or Treat, which I think it was my trick. And I ended up reading The Luminous Dead, which Spoops had sent to me because she did a giveaway for reaching, I want to say it was 3,000 subscribers. Maybe it was 4,000. Go Spoops. So she did a giveaway and I happened to win. And yeah, she sent me The Luminous Dead. So obviously I read it. And I quite enjoyed it actually. It was really kind of like claustrophobic, and I enjoyed that you were following like these two characters and only these two characters. And it was cute seeing their affection build up. My favourites, my favourites always tend to be queer, but definitely this month. I just really enjoyed like anything queer that I've picked up. Like I really enjoyed Zenny and Marriage of Inconvenience, which I feel like Scrib's like constantly been recommending to me. But I don't know if I knew going into it that it was queer, but like both the protagonist and the love interest are bi, and it's just so refreshing, really. Also, there's pegging in it, which, again, I don't know why it took me by surprise, but it did. What other queer stuff have I read? Well, The Summer That Melted Everything was queer. And it was like some of the most beautiful queer writing I've ever read. Lie With Me was queer. I quite enjoyed Be Gay, Do Crimes. That was really cute. Like hilarious. A Letter to a Beggar was non-fiction, but it was written by a queer Mexican woman, I believe. I'm trying to think what else was queer. Like The Luminous Dead's queer. Like I'm really struggling to remember what was queer, but I feel like so much of what I read this month has been queer. I'm just gonna double check because I just feel like I'm missing like large chunks of books. Oh, is that my friend? Ooh, Bestie's gone back to me. Bestie's looking amazing. Sorry, what queer books have I read? So, nope. Lie With Me. I wouldn't say The Inheritance of Orchida Divina was queer. Like, I think there was queer characters, but it wasn't inherently queer. Same with Battle Royale. Tower of Dawn was like the least queer of the lot so far, I think, when it comes to Throne of Glass. Luminous Dead, I've said, is queer. The Summer That Melted Everything is queer. The Reddening, I don't think was queer. It's been so long. The Alchemist wasn't queer. Emily World wasn't queer. Goddess of Limbo, that I'm still currently reading, I believe is queer. Super Mutant Magic Academy is queer. I'm not going to go through and list everything, but I could have sworn there was more queer stuff, but maybe not. Try to think what else I've read recently. Like, I've literally just looked at my list. I'm clearly just scatterbrained tonight. So this is my finished look. I will probably have my hair down when I'm out and about, but this is it.